How's my lighting? Okay. Okay, I see starting soon. I got my notes. Yeah, I think we're ready. Our audio is live on the starting soon, so let's do it.
Hi everyone! It's so good to see you all. Thank you so much for joining us today. Let me know how the sound is and if you can hear us. Unfortunately, Izzy has a little sore throat today, and so we are going to reschedule and chat with him next week. Thank you so much for being here. We know you're all big fans of Izzy, and we are too. So thanks so much. Okay, well, I'm glad the sound's coming through. That sounds good. We'll just do a little introduction for those of you who are new. I'm Sami, and I am the digital fabrication media producer. I handle all of our creative content and video making.
Yeah, my name is Cory. I'm our customer experience manager, and I help with the support team and getting everyone making and successful with our systems.
Yeah, so today we're going to kind of pivot and do something where we just get to talk and nerd out about digital fabrication and share some of the projects that we're working on. Also, if you have any questions, about the machines in general, about projects or techniques, please drop that in the chat and we're happy to answer them as we go. But just to kind of, bring in a little variety, we're going to each share a couple of our projects that we're currently working on and then go through a few of our favorite things, some of the recent videos by some amazing content partners, and just talk them up.
Yeah. Well,
go ahead.
Why don't you start here, Sami? And I know you've been working on a couple different things.
Always. Yeah. So I'm going to share my screen over here. Let's see. How does this look? So I am been really doing some deep dive projects this summer in Fusion 360, and I've just loved utilizing it. I've been modeling whole sections of my house and creating built-ins or components or things that are, I want to make sure that they fit and flow with the whole space. So one project, for example, that I'm doing, here's some planter boxes, and I do plan to do a video on this. These planter boxes, which is kind of, I think about this a lot. When do I use CNC and when do I not? For me, I just think in CNC fabrication, and Cory and I were talking about this the other day, but how does a CNC replace many tools that are used by traditional woodworkers? I'm very comfortable using a hand router, but I prefer to just use the CNC to make a big, mortise or tenon. So that's kind of like different techniques that I think about. I can use a hand plane or I can use a planer, but if I can do all of the operations, the same operations on the CNC machine, then I kind of just lean that way, just because I think about programming toolpaths and different operations like that. So I'm going to show you why I kind of chose to make these planter boxes this way. This is actually a layout for a local gallery here in Portland. They are called Ori Gallery, and they represent Black and trans queer folks of color. And so I'm really stoked to get to build out some really amazing boxes and make a really nice little haven for the artists who are working at the artist residency. Oh, feedback says the audio is a little bit low. Okay, I can bump that up a little bit. Okay, so my audio is all the way up. I can bump up the gain maybe. Thank you so much for your feedback. Okay, let me know how that is. Um,
Yeah, well, one thing about you modeling this in Fusion, I think, Sammy, is you're already so far along in the process of, the work needed to get these parts into the CNC
mhm.
environment. And the fact that you model it first, I think, allows for you to save a lot of material and miscuts and really have an exact bill of materials. So it's really good from a cost saving standpoint and knowing exactly what you need to get the job done. And then once it's there, moving that into the CNC environment is just one extra step,
Right.
and I think that makes a lot of sense.
So you can see here, this is kind of why I wanted to model these legs here. These would just be regular 4x4s. I could do two different operations. Indexing, I could either do this on the rotary or have the legs flat on the machine and then rotate it and have one different toolpath for each side. And here you can see I would just have to cut these sides and bottoms to length. I'll hide these trim these bottom components so you can just see the legs here and how those parts fit in. So if I can just do those, this operation on the legs, I could really just cut the sides to length and it'd be really easy for anybody to assemble. So I cut these legs and then I could give them to somebody who just has a chop saw and they can cut a bunch of sides to it. So that was kind of my concept for this planter box. Here's a full layout. And another project I kind of wanted to share with you today is, let's see, what about...
Well, I know you've been working on your Nook for quite some time, right? I
Yeah,
know. I think I've seen 5 iterations of the Nook.
yeah,
I don't know how many actual iterations there have been, but
yeah.
your recent one is pretty awesome.
It's funny with my just all my Fusion friends, we joke about the different names that we come up with for our files because if you keep remodeling something, I think that sketching and 3D modeling are the two most cost-effective ways to prototype something. And you can see here my breakfast nook version, 8001, 8002, breakfast nook for real, for real. So let's see if I can show you the dining table that I've made here. So here is the dining table that I kind of came up with. I like this kind of mod curved aesthetics. And let me show you kind of how I fabricated the base. So I'm going to hide the top. And this is used with bendy ply. These, Izzy did a really good video with bendy ply and CNC parts for furniture. And I was really inspired because I learned about bendy plywood, or it's called wiggle wood, or bendy poplar, depending on where you get it and what variety. But here you can see I made these CNC components here, which was really easy to build a framework and then wrap the bendy ply around. And I made these little dados and slots for the shelves and that sort of thing. It was actually very easy to fabricate. I haven't fully finished it, so I'll bring another update, but I have assembled it. I just need to do a veneer wrap around the outside to kind of clean up those seams and do a hardwood edge banding on the front to kind of hide the ply. But this is designed for record storage. And I also under here made little crossover supports so I can mount small casters underneath. I think the weight will hold it from rolling around too much, but I can kind of move it out of the way if I like to. Yeah, so some of the things I'm kind of working on.
Fantastic. Well, I'm not going to load Fusion right now in fear of making Skype lag, but I'm working on 2 big projects right now. One is I was pretty inspired by Jay Bates' vertical work holding table. And so I am incorporating a vertical work holding plane along with a twin turbo vise on my machine in the garage. So I'm really looking forward to having that wrapped up and be able to take advantage of that. And then the other fun project I'm working on is kind of a modified Sawhorse. And so this is meant for yard games. It's going to have some cup holders. It's going to have some shelves for beanbags for cornhole and some of the different yard games. And then it's going to have some adjustable feet. So if you put it in a place of the yard that's on a slope, you can adjust it. And so the Sawhorse is still sitting level, and any afternoon drinks or snacks can have a place to hold out in the yard.
I know. I'm excited to see how that comes out. I kind of feel like I need to make a set for me and a set for, other friends in town because, I mean, yeah, summer is always a good inspiration for different projects.
Yeah.
I want to say hi to everybody who's in the chat again. If anybody wants some really amazing sources of entertainment, go check out Bernie's Instagram, Works by Solo. He's been doing some very adventurous CNC machining approaches recently, so I won't spoil it for you. Go check it out.
Yeah, no, the textures are amazing. I'm really excited to see how this develops. So J-Base's vertical work holding table and incorporating that twin turbo vise. So just if you're interested in getting a vertical work holding surface, please reach out to us. We have a great game plan with a couple pieces of extrusion to get that plane installed on any of our Pro Series machines. So if you're out there and you have a Pro Series machine and you're interested in adding one of those to your system, please reach out to the support team and we'll get you squared away.
Yeah, also Pete is in the chat. His Instagram is Nature's Live Edge, and Pete has just absolutely mastered vertical work holding and vertical machining, making really awesome joinery. And the shop assistant, the CNC, I mean, Pete, you probably post every day. So I really, Pete's a master woodworker, and I admire his work a lot. So thanks for being here. Should we share some of our favorite recent videos?
Yeah, let's stop talking about us and let's start talking about some of the magic that's happening out there in the YouTube community.
Let's see. Well, okay. First, I have. Let's talk about the one and only Izzy. Izzy has been does so many different kinds of projects, and I love it when we get to just have a little bit of fun. And I know Izzy's here, so thanks so much. Maybe you can let us know how you thought this project went. But I've been really enjoying watching everyone do their own kind of iterations of this impossible table. The one string was kind of Izzy's take on it, and I think that's a really amazing thing when you're able to see there's this trend going on, but how can you change it and make it your own, and do some things that other people haven't done yet?
That just turned the light bulb on into why this works from an engineering standpoint. I think from all of the examples I saw, this one flipped that light switch for me exceptionally well in understanding what strengths that we're taking advantage of to get this impossible kind of piece of furniture.
Yeah, and the other thing I really liked about this video was that it showed kind of the design make workflow. And that's something that I'm really interested in, is how you kind of tweak your designs as you're making it and kind of make those adjustments and make those discoveries, and not be so focused on figuring out the full design in every possible scenario before you make something. And that's something Izzy does a lot, is a lot of iterations of something. Design it, make it. What happened, what worked, what didn't work, and making those iterations. So that's something I think is really interesting, is when you can incorporate that kind of flexibility into your workflow.
Yeah, and I think that's a little bit different than the big fusion model and really
Right.
sketching everything out. Like that definitely can get you the bill of materials, but sometimes before maybe you even jump into that, you might do a workflow like this and really get the sizing and the joinery and some different elements of that piece you're designing ironed out before you hop in the big CAD environment.
Right. Yeah, I think that's the difference when you kind of consider the different kinds of software you're going to use or your CAD CAM software. I use a variety of them because I love Vectric products, Aspire and Vcarve. I've been using Vcarve for I don't know 4 or 5 years now, and it's just been always there for me. I know that workflow. I know that Izzy can make something in like just a few minutes and have it cutting. I also have been really enjoying Fusion for its complexity in assemblies and interactive components and the parametric design. So it kind of really depends what your goals are.
Totally.
Okay, who's next on our list? Cory, you pick.
Why don't we do Mr. Mike Farrington? He
Yes.
makes good videos. And if you're unfamiliar with some of Mike's work, you should go way back in the beginning and watch every one of them. He's a exceptional woodworker and a great storyteller to boot. And he just published his first CNC video featuring 3 projects and did a phenomenal job.
Oh, here's the little shop assistant.
Yep.
Or shop apprentice, I should say. Mike made his own version of the vertical, kind of Jay Bates inspired. What I really liked about it, he had this awesome clamping system. Was that at the beginning here?
Yeah, it was right there.
Right here, yeah.
So at Tay Tools, I believe, if you check out the video, there's a link there. And yeah, it's a dovetail keyed clamp and really phenomenal way to hold work.
He did, in this video was his first kind of CNC video. He made 3 really basic projects. So if you're newish to CNC, this is a great place to start. He made a shop sign. What else was it? The box.
Picture frames.
Picture frames.
And some finger jointed boxes. Yeah.
Yeah. So this was, I think, what I like about the way Mike teaches things, he is a master woodworker, but he felt really new to CNC, was kind of, wanted to make sure to take his time to learn the processes. So that's why starting with these 3 simple projects was a good place for him. But I think that once he feels comfortable with that workflow, we're going to be able to see some really awesome in projects that he can really take off with. Because it is really just learning how the CNC can replace certain components in your shop.
Yeah,
and also you got all these dudes. So.
Yeah, no, I think when I talk about someone who's a phenomenal woodworker and bringing CNC into the shop, it's kind of doing 2 things simultaneously. It's going to be able to increase your efficiencies and consistency, and then it also is going to be able to decrease some liability. And what I mean by that is if you have one shot at something. The CNC, you could do a test cut with plywood, and then when you load in your dimensional lumber and do that, you know exactly what the machine's going to do, you know exactly how it's going to fit, and you can reduce that liability. And yeah, he's really showcasing that here.
Yeah, and here now in the clip, you can kind of see he's making these apple crates, kind of box joints. And he does this, he cuts them out on the 3-axis flat. And then he takes the components and cuts the box joints on the edges with his vertical work holding. Yeah.
And so this made for really nice tight joints. And he had a really cool tip about finish and glue in there. So I won't give it away. You'll have to check it out. He's always, he's a phenomenal woodworker from beginning to end, which includes finishing. And finishing is a huge part of it. And he always gives good tips on that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, who's next?
Who do we got next? Lynn at Darburn Orvar.
Yeah.
Let's check out Lynn's latest video. So Lynn's another great woodworker. There was I loved this video because there's this great combination of hand tools and CNC. And for me, that's my favorite workflow is when I get to use the CNC as my power tool and then hand tools. I really enjoy that workflow, and she showcased that well.
She made this amazing book press, and you're right. Like when you can use the CNC and with lots of different types of tools in your shop, I think that's like you want to have a really dynamic relationship with your machine and have it be part of the greater ecosystem, as I like to think about it, because You know, I understand if you have just your CNC in the shop and like maybe a few hand tools. I know that's like kind of Cory's preference. Um, you know, I like to have my track saw and the CNC, but I don't necessarily have to have a table saw because we can kind of make up for a lot of those things. And she's just a master at these dovetails now. Here, I'll take us to the CNC component. I think it was like 10.
Yeah, it's about halfway through the 10-minute mark. You can see,
Oh,
and
yeah.
we went from the hand tools to the 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 label or the sign for the unit. Yeah, look at that. Very cool.
She also got the gamepad set up, and if you're interested in that, Jay Bates has a couple episodes where he sets up using the gamepad to move the machine around.
Yeah, I think that is a really big advantage, even over a pendant, because it is so mobile. And then one other tip that I like to do is I like to have a duplicate monitor on my computer with a TV, so a nice big version of Mach 4 next to the machine. That way, wherever you are around that machine, you can clearly see all of the settings and where you are in your control software, and then you can use that gamepad or a wireless mouse to drive, zero, do all that functionality from the other side of the table.
Yeah. And you can see here Lynn's doing some chamfers with her chisel and hand plane. I think just because like that's what she's used to doing. And I think like as you get more and more used to using a CNC machine, you can learn different techniques to incorporate that in your tool paths. But you know, if you're still just comfortable using a hand plane for something small or don't want to switch out the bit, that's also, you know, of course, an option to be able to use all the different tools in your shop.
Yeah, Vcarve version 10.5 includes a chamfering feature now, which is a new feature in 10.5. It's a really cool feature leveraging a V-bit to do transfer or chamfers. But you don't necessarily, before you could always do them with a profile pass, but you would kind of have to do the math. Now you don't have to do the math, and it shows right in your 3D preview. And anytime a toolpath, can be shown right in your 3D preview, that just helps lower your liability and guarantee success.
Yeah. And this book press just came out so wonderfully. Now I'm gonna have to go make some books.
Yeah, right. I've been working on some leather working skills, and this is definitely a tool to leverage that.
Okay, so next up, I think I'll pick one. Jonathan Katz Moses just made this video you all have to go watch because he has this sweet camera. I think which camera is this? The Phantom.
It's the Phantom, yeah.
And it's a router bit video. I think this pairs really well with, we also have a router bit selection video. It's labeled router bit selection for plywood, but we kind of touch on different material types in the animated video. But this one is so great because you can see the real feedback with using different kinds of bits in slow motion. And I'm not sure how the resolution is for you here, but also it can show you how straight bits aren't always the best choice because it's not constantly cutting, where a spiral bit is constantly cutting. And the differences between up spiral and down spiral and compression bit and how to use them. So this is a really fun video. I feel like it's watching the Avengers, but for digital fabrication nerds or just like woodworkers,
Yeah.
And that's like the life that I want to live. It's just action movie.
The footage of the compression tool I thought was really interesting to watch the chips move both up and down, and really seeing that in quote unquote real time was really interesting for me to watch.
Yeah, to see the action of it pressing down on the veneer and up, it's pretty cool. And you can see every chip fly off in slow motion, it's fun. It's cool.
I know he did a lot of really, really cool videos with that Phantom camera and has just been killing it. And so definitely go check out his channel if you haven't seen it.
Yeah. What else? What's up next?
Well, we've said Jay's name a couple times, and we gotta throw him a little love. So his recent project with this live edge walnut table, I think was just phenomenal to watch from a fabrication standpoint. Live edge furniture is, I would say, a very popular genre of furniture right now, and there's a number of different workflows in order to get to a dining table, and I really like how Jay's workflow went through processing that material.
Yeah, and like the live edge table isn't, the newest thing ever, but the workflow for this video, when I first watched it, he absolutely nailed it on every single step with, using the CNC to join the pieces, to plane the pieces. I think that he was really thoughtful in a lot of the ways that he did this. So let's see if I can pull it up on, he puts it onto the machine bed. Also, it's just so nice when you have a machine bed that can hold these huge slabs.
Yeah, yeah, no, and also just working with material like this isn't sheet goods where you can just easily or cost effectively replace it. With a big project like this, you got to make sure you get it right, or you got to make sure you can cover up your mistakes really well. And I really like this workflow to reduce that liability and make sure that they hit a home run the first time.
Let me see, I'll skip to another good part here.
We could watch Jay watch his friend sand.
Oh my gosh, I love that part.
That's always fun. We could.
Here they're putting it back on. I think they're gonna flatten it here. Yeah.
Well, and I just love how this turned out because it is a live edged table, but it is such a subtle, elegant live edge table. It is just beautiful. It's not loud, but when I can imagine when you sit at it, you just want to touch it and look at the grain and really appreciate the natural beauty of that walnut.
Here also he's, installing some pretty basic, I think these are some rockler legs, but he just does the recessed pocket for them on the machine, which is nice. You don't even have to move the slab to a different location or make a jig or anything. So let me see. There was some sanding involved. Go ahead.
Well, that's definitely one thing that I also do in my shop. I have a pretty small shop here at the house that's 12 foot by 12 foot, so it's a pretty small space, and my CNC table definitely turns into my glue up table and my workbench and all sorts of things. And I think Jay really showed also that the machine being not just for cutting, but really the home base for this entire project was a cool feature.
Yeah. I want to say hi, Roger. Thanks for joining us all the way from Australia. It's good to see you too.
Also people in the chat, Richard, and I saw Olivier earlier.
Oh,
Olivier,
yeah.
So excited for your machine to be up and running and to see what the teardrop trailer turns out to look like. You got a lot of cool stuff on the horizon, and I'm excited for you.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what Olivier's channel, so y'all should check him out too.
Yeah, we'll put the description here afterwards for him.
We have linked to all of these videos in the description. So if you joined before I updated that, you might want to reload. But if you watch this again later, it should be there.
Yeah.
And then we also had the other video we had queued up here was Robert Cohen. And if you don't know Robert Cohen, I highly recommend you check out his channel. He has a lot of really cool robotics videos and aluminum machining, so he's an expert in those things, and definitely someone to look to as a leader in that space.
Yeah, and in this video, it was I really appreciate him leveraging his control box to meet his needs. And so on our control box, we have 2 additional relays if you're using a spindle, and he's using one of those relays for an actuator to open or close his blast gate, and then also to turn his dust collection on and off. And then he incorporated that into his post processor. So all that happens directly in the G code. And I love to see this type of work because he is configuring the machine to meet his very specific needs. And because he's not on a huge dust collection system like a big woodworking shop would have, he's on a kind of dedicated system. He can control the on off right through the machine, and then also with the blast gate. I love this type of configuration with our tools.
Yeah, this is a really creative video, and I think it's great when you don't have to remember to reach for the blast gate and all of those kinds of things. It seems like we have a couple of questions in the chat here, and I will switch our video back to exclude the screen capture. Okay, so Bernie has a question about what's the difference between the cube and cylinder Preparalfox proximity sensors.
Yeah, so uh, really the difference is more of design of the machine, Bernie. And so we used the cylindrical sensors when we were having the sensor location at the bumper. We've since transitioned the sensors to be on the gantry carriage. And so the sensor is along with the gantry, and the bumper has a flag. And so to do that, we ended up using the cube sensors because they save a little bit on space and install easier on that face of the machine.
Yeah, so you can, they function the same way. It just the profile of the cylindrical ones kind of extend by, and when you walk by it, you can brush it slightly, so it kind of gives a lower profile for the machine design. If you, there's now, you mount them to the riser plate. So you can switch them out, but if you have the cylindrical ones and they're still functioning, it's just fine. They're not, they don't function better or worse or the same. It's just the location is, convenient on the cube block configuration.
And all of our Pro Series machines are upgrade compatible. And so, Bernie, if you are interested in transitioning to that new sensor design, just reach out to the support team and we'll be happy to get you squared away.
Okay, so what ball screw is on the machine? Do you know which, do you mean like what kind of ball screw or on which axis? Let me know in your question. We have on the Z-axis of the Pro Series is, okay, C3 or C5. Cory, do you know?
C3 or C5. I'm unfamiliar with those categories, but I do know that we have a 16 millimeter diameter, 10 millimeter pitch ball screw on our Pro Series Z axes. And that is a preloaded nut. And one great thing about our machine kits is when there is a complicated assembly, we assemble, QC, and test that at our facility. So our Z axes come pre-assembled, just like our plug and play electronics come pre-assembled and tested.
Eric wants to know when you're getting a cool hat.
I don't know when I'm getting a cool hat. I need to find one. Maybe you can help me find one.
I know I only have a wall of like 7 of them, so
Yeah.
I'll send one your way.
Well, Pete earlier asked about a drop table.
Mm-hmm.
And have you seen someone with a drop table, or you want to go into that at all?
I feel like I've heard a lot of folks talk about potentially building one, and I can imagine how you might use it. I could see some difficulty in making sure that the table is level compared to the machine bed and the gantry, but I do see that's a really interesting idea. It depends what you're trying to machine. If you're trying to machine like a big, I don't know, wood cookie or something that you want to roll under the machine and then lift it up, you would kind of have to consider the widths of the cross members or make adjustments there. So I haven't seen one, but I would love to,
I've seen 2. One was specific for someone who was modifying NEMA enclosures. And so they had these big plastic boxes that they wanted to put a bunch of holes in. And so they ended up making a drop table so those boxes could just be set in the machine. And another person had a similar thing where they had a large woodworked component. So it was already glued up or assembled, and they were modifying it after it was assembled. And so, Pete, this is a great question, and I want to give you a permission slip. This is one of the big advantages to the Avid CNC system, is that these machines are designed to be configured to meet your needs and evolve with those needs. And so, modifying your spoil board, adding some additional extrusions, fasteners, brackets, all of those are options we can make with the machine, to meet your needs now. And so if you need help sourcing the extrusions or the brackets, or even discussing designs. That's what our support team is here to help with. And so please reach out to us.
Yeah. Someone else has a question about a G-code generator for things like dovetails and box joints. There are a variety of ways you can do this. So I know that Vcarve has some add-ons or plugins. I think I can't remember, they're called gadgets, that's right.
Gadgets, yep.
Yeah. And they have the box joint and dovetail gadgets. It's meant for flat machining and not vertical. So I know that exists. Maybe now that the vertical work holding exists, it's shouldn't be too difficult. But I wonder if you're able to use the dovetail router bit. But for box joints, it's not too difficult. Mike just drew a couple of boxes and spaced them out, and you just pocket them as you would imagine doing by hand. So for dovetail, you might have to do a little bit of math, but basically you would do a pocket with Fusion, and with Vcarve, you can kind of tell the router where to enter and where to exit, so that the router bit, if it's tapered, doesn't exit up in your piece, because obviously it'll take the biggest diameter of that bit, because you want it to enter in on the side and then lift up once it's exited the piece. But I'll research and see kind of what I can find. But I think some things you might be kind of creative in how you program it.
Yeah, and I would point you also back to Jay's machine setup video, and so his spoil board video. He actually set up a bunch of dovetail vectors specifically for vertical work holding at different spacing, and yeah, it's towards the end of that video, and you should definitely check that out. I think it's a very elegant solution for, I believe, box joints and that type of stuff. It's all set up with a vector pretty much pattern, and then you just scale it to the width of your box.
Yeah. Does anyone have any other questions, or Cory, do you see any that I missed, maybe?
G-code generator, I would encourage everyone to understand G-code more. So look at your G-code. One thing I like to do is I like to change my home position sometime if I'm doing something more than once or twice. And so just going into the edit G-code and changing my home position from 0, 0 to X0, Y, 12 just parks the machine just out of the way. And so there was a G-code question there.
Yeah, I think that was maybe still relating to the dovetails, but
okay.
I think that we should do another live stream about editing your post processor. Like, what is a post processor? Yeah. Editing it, modifying your G-code in very simple ways, like to have the machine at, when it finishes a cut, for example, on the benchtop machine, I don't want it to finish at the front of the machine. I want it to move to the end and the back so I can immediately remove my piece. Yeah. So there's kind of those modifications that you can make in, like the Robert Cohen video, to incorporate open the blast gate, turn the dust collector on, it's convenient.
Exactly. Well, I hope everyone's staying safe out there, having fun in the shop. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to the team, or drop a comment in one of our posts or on any social media platform, and we'll be happy to get a hold of you and help you out as quickly as possible.
Yeah, thanks everyone for being here, and we'll see you all next week, same time, and have a great weekend. Happy making.
Yeah, see you guys.
Bye.